The president and Vice President Harris, they're going to be in Atlanta this afternoon to rally support for voting rights legislation. They're backing bills that are currently facing opposition from Republicans in the Senate. Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has said he wants to move on the legislation by Martin Luther King Jr. Day, which is less than a week away. Schumer says if his GOP colleagues don't get on board by then, Democrats could make moves to change Senate filibuster rules. Ed O'Keefe is in Atlanta ahead of the president's speech. So, Ed, what can we expect to hear from the president and vice president today? How forceful is the president going to make his message?
Well, Vladimir, good to see you here from Atlanta, the cradle of the civil rights movement. We're here on the campus of Ebenezer Baptist Church, of course, where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was once co-pastor. The president and vice president will begin their day here by laying a wreath at his tomb, touring his church, and then heading across town to rally Democrats for two new pieces of voting rights legislation. But critics here in Georgia say that on this issue of voting rights, the president isn't moving fast enough.
We haven't seen the type of leadership that we need to see from President Biden.
Cliff Albright is co-founder of the Black Voters Matter Fund, part of a coalition of Georgia groups that say President Biden shouldn't come to Atlanta without concrete plans to pass voting rights legislation.
What we really want to see, given that he came down here, is that he's got an ironclad deal in place. Anything short of that is really going to be disappointing.
The Biden administration is pushing to pass two new voting rights bills, and the White House says the president today will call upcoming votes on them a turning point in the nation. In his speech, Mr. Biden will vow to defend your right to vote and our democracy, and will put pressure on the Senate to act. The first bill would establish national election standards by requiring all 50 states to offer at least 2 weeks of early voting, no excuse vote-by-mail options for every voter, a national voter ID standard, and same-day voting registration. Republicans generally oppose the bill.
They also want same-day registration, and that's just very difficult for any election official to manage. And I think that undermines trust in elections.
The second bill would update the 1965 Voting Rights Act and force states with a history of discrimination to clear any potential changes to election laws with the Justice Department. Republican Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell says the bill overreaches.
This is a bill to turn the partisan attorney general into a national elections czar.
So with no Republican support, the voting rights legislation can't survive a filibuster vote. That means any debate over voting rights is first going to be about potentially changing Senate rules. The White House says the president today will reiterate support for changing the rules by allowing bills to pass with a simple majority.
I support making an exception on voting rights for the filibuster.
But Albright says the president needs to fight harder.
He's got to give complete, unequivocal support, not support, demand and call for filibuster reform.
We'll see what the president has to say later today. The other issue, of course, is getting all Democrats on board with the legislation as well. One other thing putting pressure on the White House, members of Dr. King's family have said there should be no national celebration of MLK Day next week unless Congress passes that voting rights legislation. Anne-Marie and Vlad?
So, Ed, you pointed out a couple of things that the president is facing, the administration is facing. I'm curious about the folks who are not going to be in attendance for the president's speech, including, we're told, Stacey Abrams, that she may have a conflict. And I wonder if that has less to do with this piece of legislation the president is posting, is trying to get done, or the fact that the president's poll numbers aren't doing so well in Georgia.
A little bit of both, probably. The Democratic gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams says she has a scheduling conflict today, according to reports. A handful of other Georgia civil rights leaders also say that they don't want to attend this because they say it's a waste of time. The president should have stayed in Washington to give this speech instead of coming here, bringing members of Congress with him who could have been in Washington casting a ballot or casting a vote today on this issue. I'm going to take some privilege here, guys, only because we're sort of being given a signal by local law enforcement that we have to wrap this up in order to allow them to finish their security sweep ahead of the president's visit. One of the people we spoke with yesterday is a guy named Cliff Albright with Black Voters Matter Fund, a local group here. He was in our piece you saw. I asked him, as part of our conversation, a little bit more about the frustrations that his group and others here in Georgia have. Let's jump ahead to that and play through a little bit of what he had to say.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been great to do what he's doing in Georgia if he had gone around for the past year doing speeches about voting rights, right? Using the Philadelphia speech not as an end-all be-all in itself, but as part of an ongoing thing where he was constantly addressing this issue of voting rights and the attacks on. If you're going to say it's the biggest attack since the Civil War, then your actions have got to match that, right? If it's a historic attack, then you've got to be historic in your actions to correct it. He didn't do that.
If he picked up the phone ahead of this speech to talk to you and say, what do I need to do? What do I need to say? What would you tell him?
I'd say a couple of things. I'd say you need to do some of the things that LBJ did, who was forced into doing it because of the movement, because of Selma, et cetera. But you need to do some of the things that other presidents have done. Get in somebody's face, you know, as LBJ is known to get in your face and spit on you if he had to, right? But the other side of this is you can use the stick or you can use the carrot, right? What is it that Joe Manchin wants? Find out what it is. You can't run on the presidency because you've got 4 decades in the Senate and then you can't whip 2 votes. That's just not acceptable, right? So either you need to find out what it is that will force him to get on board or what it is that will encourage him. Name a bridge after him. Name the bill after him. It can be the Joe Manchin Freedom to Vote Act. I don't care.
So that gives you a little bit of the sense of the frustration that some have about this. He's, of course, referring there to Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia, Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona, Mark Kelly of Arizona, John Tester of Montana, among the moderate Democrats who want to see voting rights legislation passed but have concerns about blowing up the Senate's current structure, if you will, by changing the rules of the filibuster to make it happen. Again, the president will speak later today on the campus of Atlanta Clark University and Morehouse College, a few blocks from here, in what used to be the congressional district of the former Congressman John Lewis. He'll talk about 2 bills, one named for the former congressman that would change the 1965 Voting Rights Act, essentially restore part of it. The other that would enact a series of reforms across the country, forcing all 50 states to enact early voting, having at least 2 weeks of it, 10 hours minimum, over nights and weekends as well. New voter ID restrictions, and same-day voter registration. Republicans, of course, opposed to that, so Democrats know in order to get through the Senate, the debate over voting rights first begins as a debate over changing Senate rules. Guys, I would love to talk to you much more about this, but we're being given a signal by local law enforcement to get out of here. We appreciate that they let us stick around a few extra minutes, but of course we'll have coverage of that speech later today.
Well, you gave us a pretty good overview considering you've got some of Atlanta's finest right off camera there, wagging their finger at you. We appreciate it, Ed. Thank you very much.